Welcome back, guys, or if you're new to my channel, this is Automotive Anonymous, and that's the 2026 Chevy Colorado. But more specifically, this is a Z71, so it's the second highest trim level currently offered in the Colorado, and it's in a color that Chevy likes to call sterling gray metallic, which looks absolutely fantastic in person. There's a lot of metallic flake in the paint, and it really complements the curvature of this vehicle well. But while this is one of the newest and most popular midsize trucks you can currently buy, it's not perfect. So today I'm going to share the good, the bad, and the ugly of the all-new Colorado to help you guys at home decide if it might be the right vehicle for you, or if you should leave it at the lot and look at the other midsize truck competition. So today you can expect to see a walk around, all the specs, initial driving impressions, 0 to 60 on GPS, and then my final thoughts. And huge thanks to the Twin Falls Chevy for letting me borrow this one for the day. I'll link down below if you're interested because they sell below MSRP. They ship all over the country. And with that said, let's dive right into this review. And thank you so much for watching car videos on YouTube today. But if you get anything out of this video, you like my presentation style, or you like the 2026 Colorado, please be so kind to consider liking this video. Basically, that lets me know to make more stuff like this. It helps the video get shared, but will also help you by having YouTube choose to show you more stuff just like this. Thank you so much. But if you're new to Chevy, or the Chevy Colorado, which is the twin to the GMC Canyon, there's a few interesting things that you should probably know. Chevy is an all-American automaker. They were founded in Detroit, Michigan in the year 1911, but the Colorado, which is a mid-sized truck, it didn't actually come out until the 2004 model year for the first generation. It replaced the smaller compact truck, which was the S10 that ran for several decades. And the Colorado has actually gained a lot of popularity, especially in recent years. This is part of the third generation that started in 2023. It's now only offered in a 4-door short bed configuration with a big 2.7-liter turbocharged engine and an 8-speed automatic transmission, but they actually sell pretty well. For 2004, which is the finalized year most recently, this sold about 98,000 units. It's also assembled in Missouri, so it's homegrown, which is pretty neat. And if you're wondering how expensive they are, well, they are up in price. They have kept up with inflation. So a work truck does start at about $34,000. And keep in mind, that is for the 4-door short bed, but that's also for a two-wheel drive example. If you want a more expensive one, like this, the Z71, which is the 4th highest of the 5 trim levels, it does start at about $45,000 before destination and delivery. This one does have a few awesome options with it. About a $52,000 vehicle before the Twin Falls Chevy discount. Before $52,000, what do you get in your Chevy Colorado? You get a vehicle that subjectively might be the best looking midsize truck. Unfortunately though, it's not the safest. This is not a top safety pick, and for 2026, it hasn't even been rated yet for crash tests. So we don't know how well it's going to hold up. I guess we could look at the last couple years of an example, although every once in a while the crash tests do get a little bit more difficult, and vehicles that used to score really well don't always score really well. But for $52,000, you are getting a lot of standard and optional safety features. So it has really bright LED headlights, blind spot monitoring, adaptive cruise, lane keep assist, 360-degree camera, and a bunch of parking sensors. Although I do have to say, after driving this around for a while and several other Colorados, the lane keep assist feature does not work nearly as competently as some of the other midsize trucks and some of the other vehicles in general for this price tag. But beyond all that, you have a lot of off-road goodies. You have these red painted tow hooks. You also have an actual skid plate that looks like it's meant to take a beating. You have a 31.6-inch Wrangler Goodyear tire with 10/32 of tread. You have a lot of ground clearance, a really good approach angle because for the 2023 refresh, these third generations, the front axle equivalent moved up a few inches, so you have a really good approach angle. But then if we look on the interior, we have a leather-wrapped heated steering wheel with good stitching. We also have heated leather powered front seats. They're also ventilated. You have a sliding rear mirror, you have a sunroof, you have a lot of other nice features that you're just gonna have to wait to see throughout this video. And then overall, for this being a full-sized, mid-sized truck, it actually handles really well. It's easy to drive around town, it fits pretty decently in the average size parking space, but it's also stable at highway and interstate speeds, so it's overall a pretty good experience. These trucks are about 17.75 feet long, or about 1.5 feet shorter than a full-size similar configuration. It has almost an 11-foot wheelbase, which really adds to the planted feeling that this offers. And then it's about 6.6 feet wide, around 6.5 feet tall, so it has a phenomenal stance. It weighs about 4,600 pounds. It has a payload capacity that's actually pretty impressive for a mid-sized truck of 1,508 pounds. And then because this is the Z71, it should have a minimum of 8.9 inches of ground clearance. It has a 342 final axle ratio, and it can do a full circle in the low 40-foot range. And then the last couple things to mention here is when you lock the vehicle, unfortunately the gas door does not lock, so the bumps might attempt to siphon some of your 21.4 gallons of gas. But because this TurboMax is rated for about 17 city, 22 on the highway, your max road trip and range could be as good as 470 miles, which is actually pretty decent range for a midsize truck. And then it has a square tire stance all around. It's a 265 65/18. It is a Goodyear Wrangler AT tire. Has about 10-30 seconds of tread, so it's not shaved down at all. And then this is your key. You have a lock, unlock, panic button, remote start, which I can say works from at least a couple hundred feet away, which is really cool. But you can honestly just leave that in your pocket because you do have the proximity key features right here to lock and unlock the vehicle, and they work pretty quickly. The driver's side door panel actually feels really solid, opening and closing the door, but it is pretty big in how far it opens, so keep in mind if the wind gets a hold of it, you might hit the car parked next to you. The window actually has pretty decent visibility, although I've mentioned it before and I'll say it again, I do wish that the side mirror was a little bit bigger. I'm saying that a lot so that you guys pay attention to that when you test drive one for yourself. It's not quite as good as a few of the other midsize trucks, but the door panel materials on this are actually pretty nice as you'd expect for about 50 grand. There's still some cheaper plastic materials that you know are designed to age really well so that the UV rays, any sunlight, any spills, accidents, it's not really gonna damage it. And then you have a few nicer materials for the armrest and the door card and some trim pieces. This one actually has memory seats as well. You have a snack pocket and a bottle holder and a Bose sound system. You can see the Bose right there. But then this truck is actually really high off the ground. So a lot of owners are probably gonna wanna consider running boards because it is a couple feet high to get up to the threshold and then another foot or so to get to the seat. So at 5'11", I actually have to jump up here just a little bit, and it's unfortunate that you do not have an A-pillar handle. I really wish this truck had that. Anyways, this does have all-weather mats. You have rubberized pedals and kind of a dead pedal right there. You have the trailer brake, dashboard lighting. You don't have a knee airbag, unfortunately. Remember, this is not a top safety pick. I really wish this had a knee airbag, but you have the hood release, you have ventilation, more ventilation, you have the wiper and the turn signal stock, leather-wrapped heated wheel, and then ventilated, heated, powered leather seats. The bolstering on the sides is not very good. You can easily fit in, but you do slide around a little bit, but they're comfortable. I think they're gonna be very accommodating to a lot of people. I do wish Z71 was stamped into the headrest. That'd be kind of cool. And then you have a small sedan-sized sunroof up top. And then sitting inside here is actually a really nice place to be. Ergonomically, it's well designed. The armrest is where it should be. The window sill and kind of the belt line of the vehicle is not overly tall, so I can really enjoy myself from here. The hood, especially with those bulges, it really does interfere with visibility close to the vehicle. Same thing on the side, you just can't see as close to the vehicle as you could if this was any vehicle that's not a truck. But overall, it's comfortable, it's a nice place to be. And at 5'11", I still have good headroom, even though there is a sunroof on this example. When you fire it up, sure, it might not sound like the old V6, but this thing destroys the old V6 in terms of power output. 430 pound-feet of torque at 3,000 RPM, you really can't argue with that. And the fact that this engine comes from the Silverado, it's not going to be having to work too hard in this vehicle. It should be very reliable, and I like that a lot about it. The horn, it sounds exactly like the Silverado horn. Vents, the screen, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, all those things. I still really do not like that you have to turn on the headlights through this little widget button right here. Why is there not just a button on the side? That's pretty silly. You can roll down all four windows at the same time. You have auto start stop, lane keep assist, hazards, and aux for wherever that plugs into for whatever connections you want, maybe for the bed bar or something. You have some plugins, a wireless charger. The backup camera and 360-degree camera on this actually works really good. The clarity is pretty impressive too, so really can't complain too much. I guess that view is not very good, but maybe those cameras are dirty, although that just looks grainy in general. Anyways, you have the drive modes. This does not have a sport mode. It just has regular off-road, tow and haul. If it'll let me show you guys once there we go. But you get the cool graphic. I do think for 52 grand though, the software on this should match the color of your actual truck and example. And then this has 4-wheel drive auto in addition to the regular high and low, which is really neat because having auto is just fantastic. You can set it and forget about it. Electronic parking brake, cup holders. I love that you can stick your phone right here. That's really cool too. And then it's out of the way of your drinks. And then you have a lifty tray with an average size, mid-size truck, center console space. The mirror doesn't seem to have any extra features on it, like a compass or auto-dimming mirrors. I also don't see any garage door openers on this, which is kind of sad. And those don't look like LED, which is really sad. And then you can tilt or slide the sunroof. And what kind of lighting? I don't think that's LED. If it is, it kind of looks incandescent. Anyways, guys, let's turn this off and I'll hop in the back. The back door panel of this truck actually opens up pretty impressively. It could open up a little bit more, but honestly, it's gonna be easy to get pets and child safety seats and everything in here. The only issue is this seat is so high off the ground. At my height, it's literally up to my pelvic crest just about. The door panel though, you don't really get as many nice features as you do on the front. The door card is kind of cheaped out for plastic right there. You still have the armrest and the stitching. And then these seats can pop up with the lever right there, which is pretty cool. You have headrests, you have a manually sliding window, which I'm totally fine with. But there's no B-pillar handle. It's kind of difficult to get into this truck without a running board if you're the average person. And then where I was driving the vehicle, the seat, sure, was maybe a little bit further back than I normally would drive if I'm not filming and trying to get a better camera angle. But look at that. That's tight. But hey, I'm a full-size adult and I actually fit back here, so I really can't knock it too much, especially when the Colorado is one of the few trucks that actually offer rear vents. These are a must. If you have children, if you have your parents, if you have anyone else that you actually care about back here, let them cool down. It is too hot outside right now to not have anything in the back, especially when the front seats get ventilation, and the ventilation seats on this Colorado actually work reasonably well, which is not always the case with ventilated seats in other cars. And then the armrest, it's okay. Cup holders, it's sturdy. The light, yeah, I don't think that's LED either. It doesn't look like it. Anyways, visibility is okay back here. Headroom is not fantastic, especially with the sunroof, but you can see there is still a cutout right here. Hopefully you guys can see the shadows. And as long as I don't lean my head forward into the middle of the vehicle and scrape my head, I should be okay. Anyways, let's hop out and we'll talk about the bed. I think the back of this third generation Colorado looks fantastic and is probably, in my opinion, the best looking midsize truck. Chevrolet stamped in the back looks awesome. Although a lot of manufacturers are doing that these days, it's almost like it's bulging out of the tailgate if you can see the three-dimensional component. Kind of like Chevy's designing this to stick their tongue out at Ford owners and Nissan owners and whoever else is behind you. But with the vinyl stickers, it looks really good, especially with the blacked out badges. You can see the fenders stick out pretty decently. These taillights being very vertical and narrow, I think they look good. You have the bed step, a little bit of black paint on the bumper surrounding all those sensors. You have the 7,700 pound tow package on this one. I believe that's what these can still tow, just like a lot of the other trim levels that are not the ZR2 Bison. And then you have the backup camera right here. You can also lock the tailgate with the key in the remote. It would be nice if Chevy copied Ford and when you lock the vehicle, the tailgate also locked, so you didn't have to worry about taking the key out of the remote and doing that. But at least you can lock it so someone's hopefully not going to steal this pretty impressive, pretty bulged out tailgate. It is soft lowered and a little bit easier to raise up to. You have tie downs every corner. For 52 grand though, where's the bed liner? That should seriously come standard on higher trim levels and not be an option across the board. You also have a 400 watt output plug-in right there. It's not crazy good. 400 watts can only power a number of things. So because this doesn't have a hybrid component, it's not going to have a super high wattage output for your tools, but you can still charge up some batteries and do some mild things with the back. You also have a handle right here. And then this bed is just under 62 feet long. At the widest, it's about 58.8 inches. At the most narrow, between the wheel wells, it is about 45.5, and then it's 21 inches tall. So you have roughly 40 some cubic feet of room, but I'll overlay some of the specs right here on the screen. And then the side, the passenger side anyways, I think it looks really good, especially in the shadow. This sterling gray metallic paint seriously looks so good, and I just love the Colorado badges all being blacked out. You can see the 360-degree camera right there, blacked out side mirrors. I'm surprised that even though it has blind spot monitoring right there, I don't see a turn signal on this. That's kind of a weird shortcoming by Chevy. But the door panel opens up wide. You miss a few of the switchgate. Of course, there's no memory seats for the driver, especially because this doesn't have a power option, which is kind of sad, kind of strange. But it's still heated, ventilated. It looks nice. You can see where the ventilation, the air would come out of this. Pretty cool. And then, ooh, no storage on the transmission tunnel or above the glove box. And then the glove box is adequately sized. Anyways, guys, let me come around to the front. I'm gonna pop the hood and I'll show you what the massive 2.7 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine looks like. Under the hood is a 2.7 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. This thing pumps out 310 horsepower at about 5,600 RPM and about 430 pound-feet of torque as low as 3,000 RPM. And it's kind of funny because I've owned a few mid-sized trucks in the past. All of mine were Tacomas with the 2.7 liter 4-cylinder and the 5-speed manual transmission. And it's absurd that the same cubic inch size of engine, but with a big old turbocharger on the passenger side, makes 3 times the torque that my Tacomas ever did. This power plant, I think, is actually pretty impressive. You have the battery and some of the reservoirs throughout the periphery. You have a fuse box, you have the air filter, goes right to this baffling. I'm sure if you removed all of this and you did an aftermarket pipe, that thing would make the turbo spool so much louder even. It looks like you have a computer over here on the passenger side. The serpentine belt is on the front. If you remove this, that would also clear up all the space. But of course, I am not a mechanic. I would never recommend you modify your vehicle in any way, shape, or form, so keep that in mind. But you can see the coil packs, the oil dipstick, the engine oil fill. Where is that thing hiding? Oh, right there, it's just in black, it's not yellow. 5W30. So overall, this seems to be a very well-built engine. I've heard that this was built very similar to a diesel engine before, hence why it makes so much torque, especially at low RPM, and why it doesn't rev to the moon like some other smaller engines sometimes are designed to. Anyways, let's drop the hood and take it for a drive. Initial driving impressions of the 2026 Colorado Z71. Let's get up to speed. Partial throttle. This 2.7 liter TurboMax is super stout. At low speeds, under light acceleration, you can pretty easily hear the turbo whistle. It's not obnoxiously loud, but if you hear it and you don't have a lot of ambient noises around you like wind and traffic, it's pretty cool to listen to. I'm sure it would really open up with an aftermarket intake. And just looking at all of these vehicles parked on the side of the road, you feel pretty high in the Colorado Z71. This Civic in front of us looks pretty low. Visibility through the windows, it's overall pretty okay. You can see right down the center of the rear view mirror. My biggest knock on the visibility is I wish the Colorado mirrors were just a little bit bigger, especially vertically. I can't see as well as I would like to out the side of those. But overall, sitting in here, just like most modern Chevy trucks, it's very ergonomically well designed and pleasing. The belt line of the vehicle doesn't feel too high, kind of like, or the opposite, I guess, of a lot of the Toyotas. So it just feels like a nice position to be in. You don't feel like you're in the middle of a tank, unless you like that feeling. But overall, the cup holders, the shifter, all the storage that you have, the steering wheel with the 6 o'clock handle, it's all just very nice. It's refined. The Bose speaker system, it sounds pretty good, especially for a mid-sized truck. I've listened to better Bose systems in other vehicles, but most of them are in trucks that have all the ground and road and wind noise and all the things because we are higher off the ground and we are wearing a Wrangler all-terrain tire. So it is definitely better than the work truck speakers I was in just recently, but it's not the best in the class, at least for other Bose systems and other $50,000 vehicles. But when you have to get up to speed from 45, this thing gets right to work. The 8-speed is pretty quick at shifting. I don't think you're missing out a whole lot by not having the 10-speed, although that transmission would be pretty cool in this. And you can actually fit full-size adults in the back seat, which is really nice for having a 1,500 payload capacity. It really absorbs and handles bumps and ruts and potholes pretty well, especially with almost a 32-inch tire. And then these seats, they're comfortable. The heat and ventilate features work pretty well, but there's not a lot of side bolstering, so they're gonna accommodate more people, more body types and sizes. But the trade-off is you're not gonna fit in place very well. At 5'11", I slide around pretty easily in these seats. But this truck is actually a whole lot of fun to drive, and I highly recommend it if you guys ever have the opportunity to. It's cool, it launches hard, it's fun to drive, the turbo is awesome. This 2.7 liter engine is pretty stout, and what makes me happy is that this engine is found in the bigger, heavier Silverado. So it's not working very hard to move the Colorado around, and that's something that I like, especially if you care about reliability and longevity. I think this is a pretty well-proven turbo engine at this point. Anyways, let's get to the private road and we'll do a 0 to 60. 0 to 60 in the 2026 Colorado Z71. Keep in mind, density altitude is about 5,400 feet, so we're just over a mile above sea level, meaning that this turbocharged engine is down on power probably about 10%. I have traction off, 4-wheel drive auto on. We're gonna do a big old brake rev and we're gonna see what this thing can do. Oh yeah. This pulls hard in first gear for what it is. not too shabby. True 0 to 60 came in at 7.12 seconds. My final thoughts of the 2026 Chevy Colorado is I personally really like this truck. I'm not brand loyal. Every manufacturer has things that I like. They all have things that I don't like, and there is no perfect vehicle. But after driving a lot of the mid-sized trucks that this competes against, I do have to say on paper, this looks like a really good one. Driving it around, it seems really good. It's fun to drive. I love the long wheelbase. I love the torque that this thing offers. It just feels like a really good truck. And then unlike some of the competition, at least in my opinion, this one actually looks really good from every angle. Not just some angles and then questionable from others, but it seems like whoever designed the front of the truck also talked to the people who designed the sides and the back. This thing seriously looks like such a bold, aggressive, muscular little thing. And I know that's not why you buy a truck. You don't buy it for the looks, at least you shouldn't, although a lot of people do. You buy it for the capability that it has. It's crazy that for the year 2025, 2026, you can now buy a truck that has a 1,500 pound payload capacity and can tow about 7,700 pounds. That is absolutely absurd for a mid-sized truck when those used to be full-size truck numbers. This thing is pretty fun to drive. I highly recommend you guys do if you get the chance to. I'm pretty sure that this Colorado could keep up with that off-road military vehicle right there. But anyways, guys, I want to know your thoughts, your opinions. Would you buy one of these? Would you leave it at the lawn, look at the competition? Like this video if you got anything out of it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the Twin Falls Chevy. They are seriously one of the best dealerships in the nation. And until then, I wish you guys the best. Hope you take care. See ya.